Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back from the break. This is the Government Relations Live update. We're doing these a little bit different this spring. Typically, Barb and myself would just do an update ourselves. This time around, we are having guest speakers. On the previous ones, we had Representative Bill Romer spoke at two of them. Last week, we had Matt Dodovich from the Ohio Department of Taxation. Barb just put the link in the chat. If you want to watch any of those interviews that we did, those are on our YouTube channel. And then this one will be up once it's recorded as well. So today I'm welcoming Amy Arrighi. She's the Executive Director of the Regional Income Tax Agency. I know Amy was previously the head legal counsel there. I'll let you introduce yourself, Amy, just because I don't know what you did prior to that. I know you've been there a while, so I'll do the intro and then we'll get into our discussion.
Great. Thanks, Greg. And thanks again for the invitation to join you. It's hard to remember what I did before I was here, but I did serve as legal counsel for the agency for a little over 16 years before I was appointed to this role in July of 2022. I'm still having a great time. Really love it. Actually, prior to joining the agency as legal counsel, I worked for a small creditors' rights firm. So I was doing debtor-creditor work before I joined the agency as legal counsel, and I actually worked for the agency back in the 90s as a paralegal to their law director at that time. So long history for myself here with the agency.
All right. Thanks, Amy. And I know we have a lot to cover today, and we only have about 15 to 20 minutes, so we'll get started. Before we get into any specific municipal income tax issues, we just, finished up another tax filing season, unless you're on extension. But can you kind of just give us like a recap of the tax season that just finished and any, new issues that you guys are foreseeing for the next tax season?
Yeah, thanks. I would use for us this tax season, other than, a once in a lifetime eclipse a week before the deadline, for us was pretty typical, which I welcome every year. I'll take typical every time. So it was smooth. It was busy. We know we're going to be busy. We know when. We know how to prepare for it. And so, again, typical. Other than the eclipse. A couple of new things this past filing season, this tax year 2023 was the first time, our first time that we were no longer doing the House Bill 5 50% phase-in of net operating loss carry forward. So taxpayers had the ability to use their entire loss carry forward, and we got to eliminate 2 worksheets from our form as a result. So that was a welcome change for this year. So that was something a little bit new, the change in that NOL phase-in. We're not doing that anymore. Thank goodness. We have a couple of new things out and something coming later that I'm excited about. We rolled out for taxpayers back in the fall electronic billing. So taxpayers have the ability, if they have an account established with us, through our website, through my account, they can enroll in electronic billing. We send you an email, your bill's ready to review. It reduces paper. You're not waiting for it in the mail. Taxpayers can log in, look at that bill, and then simply make the payment right there. We have some initiatives here we're working on, reducing paper coming in and going out, making it easier for taxpayers to do business with us electronically, and the electronic billing contributes to that. We've seen really good positive enrollment in that. Something coming later this year that I'm excited about as well, and I think taxpayers will be, we are going to be offering secure document upload through our website. And so right now we still tell people to fax or mail stuff to us because email is not secure. That's not the best way to transmit taxpayer information. And so we will be putting those fax machines to bed at the end of this year, and excited to roll that out. So taxpayers who are responding to notices from us or inquiries will simply be able to upload any documentation that we are requesting right through our website and not have to deal with the mail or fax. So I'm excited about that. That should be live by the end of this year.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for those updates. Moving over to another issue that a lot of us were keeping an eye on, and the Ohio Supreme Court let us keep our eye on it longer than normal because the decision seemed to take forever to come out. But was the Schad ruling on the 2020 municipal income tax refunds. I've talked to some member, that's kind of been the finality on that issue. I'll let you talk about that a little bit. And also, RITA has come out and said that, if there still are taxpayers that want to file a protective refund claim for whatever reason, there's still, 3 days now. Friday, May 17th is the last date that you need to do that by. And that was going back to the 2021 tax filing season was extended out a little over a month to May 17th. And so I'll let you touch on the court case a little bit, and then maybe if that issue of having a few more days if taxpayers want to file those.
Yeah, so the SHOD ruling, right? The closer we were getting to filing season, the more concerned I was getting, just from an administrative standpoint, that they would come out and rule that refunds would have to be issued, and then we'd have double the refund work at the worst time of the year. And so they cut it a little close for my liking for an administrative standpoint. But the ruling came out February 14th. And we are still sitting on about 2,800 protective refund claims that taxpayers have filed on the tax year 2020 work from home issue. We're still holding those in a suspended status. We haven't started denying those refunds based on SHOD, only because we know there are other cases that are out there, and we're just waiting for everything to be done. So the city of Cleveland had a case that just resolved. There were a couple other cases around the state that were still sitting open. And so we're just waiting for some finality in all of that pending litigation before we let taxpayers know that it looks like there are no refunds coming. And as far as the May 17th deadline, you're correct. There's a 3-year statute of limitations for making a refund request for municipal income tax refunds. And because tax year 2020's deadline was extended to May 17th of 2021, that's the 3 years that we're looking at. And it's funny, we actually did get 44, I counted, looked at our reports, 44 protective refund claims filed by taxpayers after the SHOD ruling on February 14th, and as recently as just like a week ago. So we are still seeing a few trickle in here before the May 17th deadline. But we were concerned. I was concerned. For tax year 2021, just to give you some context, we had issued almost 8,000 work from home refunds for about $14 million. And so what I was concerned about was 8,000 new refund requests coming in at the same time we were trying to get through the normal filing season. So from an administrative standpoint, the timing was worrisome, but it turned out administratively to be okay. We didn't have to process those. So we are still holding them and just, again, waiting for all of those cases to just wind down and be closed and final.
Yeah. Thanks, Amy. And I mean, as you mentioned, that ruling came out on Valentine's Day. So depending on which side of the issue you're on, you were either happy or you had your hearts broken that day. And I think we kind of fell on the, our members wanted the refunds. But I think really what this issue, kind of comes down to, and this is transitioning over to the withholding issue. The entire debate around that special COVID provision that was temporary law in House Bill 197 for a 2-year period in 2020 and 2021. There was really a debate of whether it was a withholding provision, which was our view, or a lot of cities took that as a taxability provision. And so that provision has gone away. The legislature allowed 2021 refunds. 2020 was up to the courts. But the withholding issue is still out there. And, as of January 1st, 2022, withholding went back to, normal, I will say. But I would say really anything with hybrid and remote work being more prevalent now, it's not normal anymore. So what have you kind of been seeing with some of the trends, since we've gone back to the withholding the way that it normally was, where the services are being performed since 2022? Are employers withholding to hybrid and remote workplaces and the business location, or what are you kind of seeing in that area?
Yeah, it's been interesting because we haven't seen a huge shift in dollars. So just for some context, our largest community is the city of Youngstown. So, an urban center, downtown, lots of offices. And our smallest community is the village of Octa down in Southwest Ohio, like 59 people. And so we really have a spread, a wide view. The city of Youngstown, and my thought was we'd see withholding start to come down for them, but we didn't. They're doing okay. In fact, all of our municipalities that we would consider comparable, so they haven't had a rate change in the last 3 years. They've been with us more than 3 years. Overall, those communities are up about 6 to 8% in employer withholding. We have a couple communities where it's an exception. And, if anyone's seen me present on this topic, and I've talked about Mayfield Village, and they're very open about this. They had large headquarters, Progressive Insurance. Progressive has been selling off buildings. So they did not bring all of their workers back. So a community like that, where they're smaller in terms of the residential population, but have a large corporate office presence, they were more likely to feel the impact of that, especially if employees weren't coming back or were only coming back hybrid. But we haven't seen any communities, bedroom communities really skyrocket, because it is really resident by resident. So some of the bedroom communities are seeing withholding from companies that they know don't exist in their communities. And we know it's because people are working from home. But on the whole, we haven't seen a large shifting of dollars, it's been interesting to watch that develop over the last couple of years, because we really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to continue to be an issue that we're tracking, and also from your end on where the withholding is being taken place, and if there's more refund requests, or if with some of these cities maybe having 100% reciprocity credits, maybe the worker is just going to leave it where it was withheld and not request a refund. So. I do want to just remind members, since this is live, you can ask questions in the Q&A section if you want, or in the chat. It's easier for us to see it if it's in the Q&A, but if there's a specific question you want to ask, we'll try to get to it. Amy and I do have a few more issues we want to cover here. Moving over from refund withholding conversation to the net profits tax side of it. One of the bills there was a couple bills that were pending this General Assembly that ended up getting amended into the budget bill, which was House Bill 33. So the standalone bill on this was House Bill 121. It created a safe harbor, kind of the same theme with remote and hybrid workers. Businesses may trigger a net profits tax obligation in numerous cities. And so one of the things that we advocated for and ended up getting passed was this safe harbor for the net profits tax that's optional to the business. They can opt in. Maybe you can mention how that works, and then also I just wanted to throw in there too. One of the other pieces of the budget bill on the net profit side is a 30-day. You get 30 days extra if you're on extension to file those net profits tax filings. So instead of those being due October 15th, they're now due November 15th. So kind of a two-parted question there for you, Amy, on the net profits tax.
Yeah. So just how those things work together. So, excuse me, as you said, the General Assembly provides now this alternate apportionment method for businesses, really effective for their tax year 2023 filings, so that if a company does have remote workers working at home or in other locations, they can make an election to treat that work as if it's being performed at a designated reporting location. And the law defines what that means and what is a reporting location. But the idea is that, companies, especially service organizations, attorneys, architects, accountants, those kinds of things, where they have people working at home performing services, the idea was that those businesses would not have to have net profit apportioned in all the places where their employees live and are performing these services. And so that's really what that was meant to address. The way that a company takes advantage of that alternate apportionment, it has to be done in writing. And the way that we're accommodating that is on our net profit form. We have so many check boxes on that form, but we added another checkbox so that a taxpayer can tell us that they're using this particular alternate apportionment method because they have remote workers. We're also asking then that the employer the business indicate on their withholding reconciliation form with us that they have remote workers. So remember, just because you can treat work that's being done by your employees at home as if it's being done maybe at the office for net profit purposes, you still have to withhold. The withholding still has to be done where they're actually performing the work. And so there's going to be some mismatch, right? So the net profit return is going to have different numbers than the withholding return. And so we're trying to get taxpayers, businesses to tell us on both filings, like, hey, we got remote workers and we're taking advantage of this new alternate apportionment method. It's going to reduce notices from us because our system notices when things don't match. So we'll really understand the full impact of that later this year, because as you said, net profit extensions have been changed. So net profits can extend to the 15th day of the 11th month after the end of their tax year. Most net profit returns that come in here, most of those are calendar filers, and most of them come in on extension. And so we'll have a better idea after November 15th how many businesses are utilizing this new apportionment method. So we'll be watching for that. I'll throw out a quick plug, which is a helpful plug. We did our annual tax preparer seminar in January. All of those presentations are posted to our website, and we have a lot of examples in there about how taxpayers would indicate that on their net profit filing with us, and then how that translates to some of the other schedules. So lots of examples on that, as well as the net operating loss carry forward. I mentioned that earlier, that there was a change there, that we're not doing that phase in. We have a lot of examples out there, also how to accommodate that when the net profit return comes in.
Yeah,
So
and I always attend that session, the annual session that you guys do, the 3-hour session in January, and it's always great. You cover a lot of these issues in more depth. I know we only have 15 to 20 minutes today, but that 3-hour session, I mean, you guys really go into examples and how to work this stuff. And I probably should know this, but the net profits form that you referenced, is that 29A or something?
It's our Form 27, which is available on our website, or if you partner with one of our, we have several software package partners through MEF that can also be filed there as well.
Okay, and then you did so good on that 2-part question, and kind of another 2-part question issue here. Moving over to the filing side of things, and these are 2 different pieces of legislation, but House Bill 5, 10 or so years ago allowed for automatic municipal extensions when you get a federal extension. And then kind of tied into that issue was the late filing penalties issue, because some cities, and I don't, RITA wasn't doing this, but some cities were sending out notices or penalty notices before the extended deadline. And so that issue was House Bill 105 was amended into House Bill 33. It waived and abated the penalties and set it at a $25 fee. And then the first time it's waived or abated, and then it's at $25 total instead of increasing for over 6 months, because the late filing penalty could go up to $150 under prior law. It is now capped at $25. So if you want to talk about those automatic extensions, and then how we've reduced penalties and interest on the filing side.
Yeah. So here's my I want to say PSA, but it's kind of a plea. If you have a federal extension, this is for people and non-people taxpayers, you do not have to provide a copy of that extension to the municipality or to RITA by the April 15th deadline. We get tons of, our fax machine is cranking with extensions on April 15th. We don't do anything with them because you don't have to tell us, you don't have to tell any municipality. So you don't have to send those. The late filing penalty, you're right, it was $25 a month, up to $150, regardless of whether there was any tax due or not, which is, kind of obnoxious. So what was happening was a lot of communities, it would be doing their non-filing compliance work in the summer, right? They get through their filings, takes them April through May, they get things processed, then they start sending letters to taxpayers that they didn't get a return from. And if those taxpayers were on extension, then they were reaching out to their preparer, getting a copy of the extension, which they were never required to send in the first place, and providing it to the community to demonstrate why they hadn't filed the return yet. And so Like, you guys don't like that, right? So the law changed, and basically says communities should not be sending those types of correspondence before the extended due date unless they know for certain that a taxpayer is not on extension. And then how that ties in with the late filing fee, a lot of communities, and rightly so, would say, look, if we wait 6 months to tell a taxpayer that they're late on their filing, they're just going to think we're trying to collect $150 from them, right? Like, we waited 6 months on purpose. So, if we can't contact them for 6 months, you're penalizing the taxpayer with this $150 bill. So part of House Bill 33 was to reduce that late filing penalty. It is a flat $25, no matter how late the filing is. And it does require, the law does require that the first time that the taxpayer is late, that gets waived. So that kind of dispensed with that concern about, look, if we have to wait 6 months to tell a taxpayer that they need to file a return, they're going to think we're trying to get $150 out of them. What we're doing at RITA, we developed a letter to go out to the taxpayer to let them know, hey, something was late. The penalty is this. It's waived the first time under the law. This is when it was due. Like, do better next year. You could do it. And to let them know that something happened and when they should get the filing in for the next year. So we're anxious to see what that change is going to do to our call center volume, because we would take a lot of calls on that $150 penalty. And so it'll be interesting to us to see later this year and really into next year what that's going to do to our call volume related to that issue, late filing.
All right. Well, thanks, Amy. And we have hit the 20-minute mark. So just wrapping up here, there was one question in the Q&A from Richard asking about the 15% flat penalty. I believe that's he's asking about on the estimated taxes. Richard, there's not currently a bill pending on that, but I have heard more and more from members on that. I think part of the issue I think with that is in the penalty section it says equal to 15%. There was a similar issue several years ago with the withholding penalty. It said equal to 50%, and that we were able to work to get that changed to not exceeding 50%. So I think something similar language on that where the penalty could go up to that amount but not exceed it is up to that. That would give cities discretion on charging less than 15%. But like I said, there's not anything currently pending on that right now. Amy, thanks for joining us today. Did you have any wrap up comments before we wrap it up here?
No, that was the fastest 20 minutes of my life. I could just talk about this stuff all day, but I appreciate you inviting me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone. Check out our website for the examples on those NOL and the new apportionment to see some examples on how that works. And that's all
Amy,
I got.
I think once we wrap up here, I will put that in the chat. So any members that want to access that, because I know where it's at on the website, so I'll put that and anyone can take a look at that. But thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of the advanced session. Thank you.
Thank you.